Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verses 1 to 11. And it is entitled, Pleasures Are Meaningless. I said to myself, "Come now, I will test you with pleasure," but that also proved to be meaningless. Laughter, I said, is madness, and what does pleasure accomplish? I tried cheering myself with wine and embracing folly, my mind still guiding me with wisdom. I wanted to see what was good for people to do under the heavens during the few days of their lives. I undertook great projects. I built houses for myself and planted vineyards. I made gardens and parks and planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. I made reservoirs to water groves of flourishing trees. I bought male and female slaves and had other slaves who were born in my house. I also owned more herds and flocks than anyone in Jerusalem before me. I amassed silver and gold for myself and the treasure of kings and provinces. I acquired male and female singers and a harem as well, the delights of a man's heart. I became greater by far than anyone in Jerusalem before me. In all this, my wisdom stayed with me. I denied myself nothing my eyes desired. I refused my heart no pleasure. My heart took delight in all my labor, and this was a reward for my toil. Yet when I surveyed all that my hands had done and what I had toiled to achieve, everything was meaningless, a chasing after the wind. Nothing was gained under the sun. And the second reading is 1 John chapter 2, verses 15 to 17. And it's on not loving the world. Do not love the world or anything in the world. If anyone loves the world, love for the Father is not in them. For everything in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life comes not from the Father, but of the world. The world and its desires pass away, but whoever does the will of God lives forever.
Tonight we are starting a sermon series of hot topics. This week and next week are about money. The topics are, however, different. After that it gets even more interesting, but I will not spoil anything. So if you're anti-spoilers, relax. It's okay. Money. Money is all around us. We cannot avoid it. It has been the subject of books, of movies, of songs. If you're old enough to remember ABBA and Pink Floyd, writing about how it's hard to make money, and then at the end of the day, what have you got? Those kind of questions, the questions around money, what's it for, how do I get it, what do I get out of it, are some of the things that are on the mind of the author of Ecclesiastes. Now, Ecclesiastes is one of what we call the wisdom books. It's written in a thinking frame of mind, a contemplative frame of mind. We don't really know who wrote it, although most people say it probably Solomon. Although it could be somebody writing from Solomon's perspective, someone with a bit of a philosophical bent. But we thought, it'd be a good idea to look at what the Bible says about money specifically and wealth generally. Now, Ecclesiastes chapter 2 is a little bit of an interesting one in that he is going into a scientific analysis of the situation. He is very particular about what he wants to achieve. He goes, come on, I'm going to test you with pleasure to find out what is good. I wanted to see what was good for people to do under the heavens during the few days of their lives. He obviously has a revelation of human mortality. Time on earth is short, relatively, compared to the great expanse of eternity. Our mortal lives are but a moment. So what do we do? What is worth doing? So he goes through this in, I think, 3 stages. He starts with the close and personal, he moves out a little bit more, and then he moves into an even bigger expanse. Close and personal, he starts with the things of passing benefit. Verses 1 to 3, which have disappeared, that's fine. Fleeting moments, those sensory pleasures. And what is his conclusion? Laughter is madness, and what does pleasure accomplish? So laughter is momentary sensory joy, the things you do just to get a kick out of it. Pleasure are some of those things you do specifically for enjoyment. Now, we all have these temporary kind of things that have a passing benefit. We all know them. We have them in our lives. Things like going to the movies, ducking down to Dobertson's for that nice little pastry or pie. You know, the shiny thing, the toy that we like to buy. Going out for a really nice dinner. Heading out for the mates for a night on the town. Heading out with the mates for a night on the town. Those kind of things. They are fun. Yes, they're enjoyable. But once the moment is over, the enjoyment stops. Madness, he calls them. The word used here is the same word they use for boasting. It's an emptiness. It's making things bigger than they are. And so we're left with, what is the point? So these temporary things, what do they benefit us? Now, most of you will know that I am a bit of a fan of biblical commentaries. One that I found quite interesting commentary on Ecclesiastes was one done by Stacey Orico in about 2006, where you may recognise it, those who are old enough. There's got to be more to life, right? Now, some of you won't be old enough to remember that song. Others, it will have completely skipped by you. And that's okay. But there's got to be more to life. And that is the same question that the author of Ecclesiastes asks. And he obviously probably has some wealth because he starts to experiment. He moves on to the next stage. He's dealt with the personal pleasures and gone, there's nothing in them. Yes, they were fun in the moment, but the moment's gone. And there's nothing left. So what about more tangible pleasures? As we move through, so verse 4, he builds houses. Wrong word, wrong language. Real estate portfolio, builds up a real estate portfolio. Verse 5 goes into landscaping. See if I've got that here. Goes into landscaping. Verse 6, engineering projects, ponds and lakes and things like that. Verse 7, he takes those and builds on them and creates a dynasty, an ongoing dynasty. How does he express this? He has male and female slaves and then slaves born in his own household. That tells me a couple of things. One, he's wealthy, and not touching the issue of slaves per se, but he is wealthy enough to get people to work for him. And then he's able to provide so much for them that they are able to provide for their own families and find a safe enough haven to create their own happiness. And then in verse 8, he moves on to the toys and the playthings and the shiny stuff and the gold and the glitz. Now, we've all heard the statement, he who dies with the most toys wins, at least in the circles that I've run around with. But is that what he finds? Finally, having done all of that and gone, it's still not enough, he moves on to bigger things and moves on to social standing. Verse 9 tells us he became greater than anyone in Jerusalem before him. He has everything that everyone could possibly want. He's built himself up from nothing to become the person that everyone wants to be. Now, I'm sure we can think of some celebrity, some wealthy person out there who is looked up to for having it all. There is nothing they couldn't possibly want that they can't just go out and have if they want it. That is where this writer of Ecclesiastes finds himself. He knows pleasure, he has all the toys, all of the playthings, all of the wealth, all of the status. And he enjoyed it. He enjoyed the process. Now, there is nothing overly wrong in enjoying the process. This is a long-standing famous quote from Theodore Roosevelt. Far and away the best thing life has to offer is to work hard at work worth doing. Doing a job that is enjoyable and is worth something is rewarding. But it is a temporary reward. But he still asks, is it worthwhile? What is it worth? Now, is it worth it to do all those things that are fun and enjoyable and give you status and make people look up to you? Another great commentarian, Sheryl Crow, said, if it makes you happy, it can't be that bad. But the writer of Ecclesiastes asks, but is it any good? When I had surveyed all that my hands had done and what I had toiled to achieve, everything was meaningless. Chasing after the wind, nothing was gained under the sun. Now, nothing that was gained under the sun implies that there was nothing gained in the heavens either. After all of that effort, he is still left asking, what is it good for? What is worthwhile? Now, some will try and say it's not worth anything at all. And we all know that quote, love of money is the root of all evil. I see some people muttering. That's good. That's good muttering. But that is an incomplete quote. Why is it incomplete? Let's duck over to John for a moment, first epistle of John. Do not love the world or anything in the world. If anyone loves the world, love for the Father is not in them. For everything in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life, comes not from the Father, but from the world. And that is what people will go to that verse. But what is Timothy, or Paul trying to say to Timothy? Let me duck back here. This is where I should have gone. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, but why? It is the why that is the important question, because some have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs because of it. That is the trouble with money. That is the trouble with wealth, the trouble with seeking it. It is not bad of itself. Enjoyment is not bad. Like the writer of Ecclesiastes says, I enjoyed the process, but the enjoyment was all I got out of that process. I gained all of these riches and I enjoyed them, but enjoyment was the only thing I got. Which, in the grand expanse of eternity, is really not that much. There are more important things. Because, verse 17 here, the world and its desires pass away. That is the key to the matter. That all of our pleasures, all of our resources, even the most influential life, doesn't matter who you are. You can be royalty, You can be a Bezos, a Trump, Obama, one of those mob. Doesn't matter how big you think you are, a Zuckerberg. It all ends, and there are more important things at stake. So the love of money needs to be tempered by an understanding that, yes, it is transitory. Money and wealth can achieve great things. They can be used for great good and great pleasure. But compared to eternity, what are they really? And as Paul says to Timothy, they are a great risk of distraction. Eager for the faith, some have wandered. Eager for money, some have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. Life has been made harder than it needs to be. I remember an interview with a wealthy man. I can't remember their name off the top of my head, but they were looking back over their working career, and this was a person of influence. They were wealthy. They had achieved a lot. And when I asked, what was it like doing everything you've done, having all the money you've had, all the power, all of the influence? And you know what they said? They said it was like an empty paper bag. Like you reach all your life, you struggle, you fight, you claw, you waste hours, you burn the candle at both ends to get it. And when you grab it, you open it, and there's nothing in it. Because at the end of the day, when you are standing there and you're at the end of your life, you can't take money with you. You can't take pleasure with you. You can't take social influence with you. But those things can be a powerful distraction. One of those powerful distractions is it comes with an emotion that the rush of pleasure brings a chemical reaction in the body, and you start getting addicted to it. And you say, just a little bit more, just a little bit more, just a little bit more, but it's never enough. Because it can never be enough. Compared to the wealth of the one who owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, compared to the wealth of the one who created everything in creation, who knows your name amongst all of the billions of population of the world, knows what you are doing right now, knows the thought in your head, knows what you'll do tomorrow, knows every conceivable way you'll stuff up and every conceivable way you'll get it right, and loves you unconditionally. Compared to that, all the wealth in the world is nothing. The world and all its desires pass away. Now, don't hear me wrong. Having money of itself is not a bad thing. Money is a tool. If you are well remunerated for the job you do, fantastic. You've earned it, I hope. But don't let it be a distraction. Don't let it distract from the things that really matter. Yes, it can get you the shiny thing. Yes, you can go out and have fun with your mates, and it's fun and it's good and it's enjoyable. We're not supposed to go around sad all the time. But don't let it distract from the things that really matter. I see people who wreck themselves working to get just that little bit more, to get the toy, to get the thing, to get the extra 2 cylinders into the V8, to get the 6.7 or whatever it is on the end of on the side of the car. Drop my kids off at school and it's all Mercs and Audis and the odd Porsche and whatever. I mean, they're brilliant cars, but to kill yourself for that is not worth it. To risk compromising yourself for wealth, for money, is not worth it. Because of the things that do not pass away, the things that live forever. Now, we don't get that in this short passage of Ecclesiastes yet. Now, go on and read the whole thing. He deals with a whole range of issues, mostly around all of the stuff that just really, in the grand scheme of things, is not worth it. Money is... You can't survive without money in this day and age. You need it. The more you have, the more you can do. But it is... For all that you can do with it, it is not worth distracting you from eternity, from the things that really do matter, love and life, and eternity with God.